The following program, Live and Learn, is made possible by Aging Partners. Find out more on their website.
Hello and welcome to Live and Learn. Today we are delighted to welcome a new host. Doug Jose joins us. You'll be seeing him in just a little bit later. But on our segment, we're going to talk about one of the great events that takes place during the summer in the Lincoln area, and that is the Lincoln Municipal Band. We'll have a couple of members here, Terry Rush and Bob Kruger, to talk about all the events that are taking place this summer. Stick around.
I'm Bill Ainsley. Vision problems are very important to detect and treat. Today I'll be speaking with Dr. Kyle Peter, Lincoln optometrist. You need to watch.
Hi, I'm Lita Powell Drake, and today we're going to talk about ham radio with one of the biggest hams in town, Reynolds Davis. He's great. Please stay with us. I think you're going to learn a lot on Live and Learn.
Hi, I'm Doug Jose. Welcome to Live and Learn. Today I'm going to be visiting with Andrew Loudner, an estate planning attorney, and we're going to talk about the do's and don'ts of estate planning. Stay with us and learn about your situation.
This and more on today's Live and Learn.
You've been listening to some fabulous sounds from the Lincoln Municipal Band from their summer concert series and got a chance to see a couple of former soloists that appeared. Hello and welcome to Live and Learn. I am your host, Jerry Renault, and today we have a wonderful program. We're going to talk about the Lincoln Municipal Band. It is one of the fabulous things that takes place in Lincoln over the summer, and we have a couple of gentlemen here who are going to talk to us about the summer program and who are going to be fairly involved in that program as well. It is Bob Kruger and Terry Rush, both longtime members of the Lincoln Municipal Band and also very involved in the Lincoln program in the Lincoln Public School System. So both of you, thank you and welcome to our program.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you for having us.
Before we get started and talk about the series, and it is a wonderful series and it's a fabulous band, let's find out a little bit about you. Bob, you've been here before, so I'm going to push you off for just a second. Terry, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've been doing in terms of music in the area.
Well, lifelong resident of Lincoln. I taught 5 years at Pius X, 25 years at Lincoln High, 5 years at Lincoln Southwest. I've been doing some adjunct work at Doane now University, and member of the Lincoln Symphony and Lincoln Municipal Band. I started with the Municipal Band, I think it was about 1972. Started subbing in there and then became a permanent member of the group.
Fabulous, wonderful. Bob, a little bit about yourself.
I grew up in Omaha, went to school at UNL, so I've lived in Lincoln for quite a while. Began teaching in LPS in 1985. I was at Southeast High School, full-time band director, orchestra director for 10 years. And since then I've been teaching elementary band music at several different elementary schools and still direct the jazz ensembles at Southeast High School.
And you're keeping the music industry alive with your son, who I understand is also teaching in Omaha.
Yeah, I have actually all three of my kids are music
wonderful.
teachers, which is kind of cool. My oldest son, Paul, is teaching jazz at the University of Oregon, and my middle son, Tommy, is the band director at Omaha West Side, and my youngest, Kayla, is a general music teacher at Nyhart Elementary in Millard. So, and my wife is a member of the municipal band and also teaches here, teaches music in Lincoln. So it's kind of the family business.
Wonderful. We talked a little bit about before we started the taping about the music program in Lincoln. It's really a wonderful program, is it not?
It really is. It keeps growing and getting better. It's been recognized by the National Association of Music Manufacturers. They select a few schools or cities throughout the country that have strong music programs, and I believe this is the second year that Lincoln has been selected, and so kudos to Dr. Lance Nielsen, who is the music supervisor for Lincoln Public Schools, and he's doing a marvelous job, and we've got a really great staff on board for the Lincoln Public Schools.
Yeah, that's great. It's a strong supporter of music and the Lincoln Municipal Band in the summer, and it's just wonderful to be able to keep music alive and keep things going in the
Yes.
city. Let's talk about the Lincoln Municipal Band. It's a wonderful entity. You guys have been around for a long time. Bob, you're doing an awful lot of directing this summer.
That's my job, yep. As music director, I do 4 of the 7 concerts, and I get to conduct those and choose the music and so forth. I also normally get to play trumpet on the ones that I don't conduct, but this summer I'm out of town on all the ones I'm not conducting, so I won't be able to play this summer. But that's one of the enjoyable parts for me, is being able to do both of those things, some
Sure.
conducting and some playing. And I just think, as an organization, first of all, it's the only professional wind ensemble in the state of Nebraska. It's one of the oldest performing groups in the state of Nebraska, and I think it's one of those things that makes Lincoln a special town to live in, especially during the summer, when families and people that are interested in spending a beautiful night in a beautiful place, Antelope Park, can come and enjoy great music, and it's all free, which is another thing that's really special about the group.
Yeah, there are a lot of great musicians around, and it's really wonderful music, and lots of people come out, and I hope it's something that we can keep going for quite a while. Let's talk about the series. We've got some things coming up this summer that will sound familiar to some people, but we've also got some new things. So let's start in. It starts in July. I think the concerts are on Sunday night, and the first one is July 1st, and so it's going to be Tony Falcone is going to be the director, and it's the Star Spangled Salute celebrating our liberty, and it's always great to hear some of that patriotic music. In fact, just because it's one of my favorites, so I picked it. We have a little short clip of the band playing Stars and Stripes. I never get tired of hearing that, and I'm sure it's lots of people are that way, that because
yes.
it gets played all
Very
the time.
much.
What else are we likely to hear at this concert? And we have a very special soloist, do we not?
That's correct. It'll be, as the first concert is usually near or on the July 4th weekend, you'll hear a bunch of patriotic music. Of course, Stars and Stripes will be the traditional closer for that concert. And we are celebrating our Young Artist competition. We began doing the John Sheldnick Young Artist competition a number of years ago. Students send me recordings of themselves playing solo literature, and I select the finalists out of those recordings, and then the finalists come and do a live competition. And Terry Rush and I, and usually 1 or 2 other people, judge the finalists at a live performance. And this year we selected Liam Hughes, who's actually a former student of mine at Southeast and now is a music major at the University of Nebraska. He's a bass trombone player, and he's going to be really an exciting player to listen to. That's really a great educational aspect that we try to take a lot of pride in.
And Terry, I know you're going to be one of the soloists a little bit later during the course of the summer. That's really a challenge to stand up in front of all those people and be the soloist, isn't it?
Yeah, yes, I vividly remember my first time doing that, and it's fun to do. It's also a challenge because you also play on the concert, so you're not like the soloist and that's your only gig that day. So and a lot of people may not know, we have an hour-and-a-half rehearsal for an hour concert. So most of the musicians get their music ahead of time and prep it.
That's a challenge,
And,
though.
yes, and so just to keep the chops going, enough to do a solo as well. And this year I'm doing a piece by Gardell Simons, who wrote several solos for the trombone. It's called The Volunteer. And it's kind of a patriotic piece as well. And so it's just a fun piece to play. It really is.
And it's really great to see. Again, I think it goes to show what a great program we have in Nebraska and in the city, that we have so many great young people keep that music tradition going.
That's right.
Okay, let's move on then to our next one, which is week 2. And that is July 8th, and that is going to be Sunday night at the movies, popcorn and Picks. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, that one's always a fun concert to program for, and it's one we do most summers because there's a lot of music you can mine from the movies. And this summer, we're going to be doing music from Silverado, Bruce Broughton, wonderful movie composer, and that's kind of an iconic soundtrack that has influenced a lot of further movie composers. We're going to do music from Harry Potter, of course. There's a medley of tunes from back in movies from the 50s and 60s all the way up through Raiders of the Lost Ark called Hollywood. And then we're going to do a Mary Poppins medley. And I was doing my research for the program notes, and I realized they're doing I don't know if it's so much a sequel as it is a remake of Mary Poppins that's going to be coming out this coming winter. So that should be fun to see how that comes out.
You beat him to the punch.
I guess so, yeah.
Very good. And we have a nice soloist that week as well.
Yes, Nate Lefebvre, who teaches in Kearney. He's the band director at Kearney High School and is a former Lincoln High grad and student of Mr. Rush and at Lincoln High, and of myself at through the Lincoln Youth Symphony. And Nate is a trombone player, very fine musician who often plays in the trombone section of the Lincoln Municipal Band. So we're excited to have him as a soloist.
Wonderful. And you're going to direct that one, and then you're
Correct.
going to direct the one the following week, which is July 15th. What kind of things do we have planned for that Sunday?
That one the theme is Picnic in the Park. So I'm kind of thinking summer theme, I'm thinking kids, I'm thinking families. So we're going to play various different kinds of music. We're going to, first of all, the overture is Barber of Seville, which,
fun.
as most people our age, we remember the great Warner Brothers Bugs Bunny cartoon,
yes.
Rabbit in Seville. So that's kind of where that programming came from. We're going to do a Czech polka, which is kind of a tribute to Czech Days that happens
Very
in
nice.
Wilbur late in the summer. We're going to do a wonderful piece by Australian composer Percy Granger called Walking Tune that was inspired during a vacation that he took to the Scottish Highlands. And we're going to do some music from the Broadway show Wicked, which is in Omaha right now as we speak. So it's kind of touching on summer activities and the kinds of things we like to do in the summer.
And again, a great soloist.
Yes, Rick Ricker on French horn. He's been a long-time principal horn player with the Lincoln Municipal Band. He has had affiliations with a number of really well-known symphony orchestras before he came to Lincoln, and we always are very excited to have Rick play.
Okay, good. Moving on. Classic Cars on July 15th. I'm assuming this is a popular one. We always have great music and lots of great cars to look at.
It is, and that's a really fun one. The car clubs come out and show off their cars. The audience loves to wander through and take a look at all the different cars. And this year the theme is classic music, classic cars. And I thought with classic music, I wanted to go two different ways. So we're going to play a couple of famous classical pieces that translate well to kind of a pops concert. And then we're also going to do classic American music. So we're going to do some music of Ray Charles and some music of Cole Porter. So kind of a wide variety under that word classic.
Very cool. Okay, July 29th. Bob, you are still on the baton.
And by the way, I should say, Terry Rush will be our soloist on the classic. Terry is also a classic. So
Oh, that's right.
Comes with age, I guess.
that's right. So he'll be our July 22nd soloist.
Okay, and 20 seconds about your solo.
Well, like I said, it's The Volunteer by Gardell Simons, who wrote several solos, and it has some little patriotic snippets in it. And the one thing I enjoy about doing Gardell Simons' pieces, I've done Arthur Pryor, who is just strictly just technical. Hold on, to your seats, folks. Here we go. But Gardell has some of that in his music, but he also has some very pretty melodic music. And it's just a fun piece to play, and I think it's a fun piece for the audience to listen to.
Fabulous. Before we run out of time, let's talk about the one on the 29th, Space, The Final Frontier, One Giant Leap for Mankind.
Yep. And I'm going to really quickly hit on that one and the final one because I think it's important. But the Space, The Final Frontier, it's the first time we've done that as a theme, so I'm going to Star Trek and Star Wars and 2001: A Space Odyssey for my inspiration for the music there. And that'll feature Ryan Beach, who is principal trumpet player in the Alabama Symphony, is going to come back and play. He's originally from Lincoln. And then the very final concert, August 12th, is a really special one because that's our salute to veterans. Terry will be our conductor for that one. Dean Heist will be our soloist. And that's the one where we invite veterans to come out, and then we play a medley of all of the hymns from the various different armed services, and the veterans stand when their hymn is being played. And I think it's just really moving to see that happen.
Wonderful. I wish we had more time. I could talk to you guys forever. I just think the Lincoln Municipal Band is this fabulous gem.
It is a gem.
That occurs
Yes.
in the summer in Lincoln, and we encourage everybody to come out. And Terry and Bob, thank you so much for coming by and
our pleasure.
taking some time to talk a little bit about that. Thank you for tuning in today. We appreciate that. I'm your host, Jerry Renault. And remember, it's never too late to live and learn, and just a little bit more of the Lincoln Municipal Band as we head out.
And we're back at the home of Maria Wright, who just scored major points by recycling. Let's go to replay. Look, there's a package.
Nick, starting April 1st, corrugated cardboard. See that ripple? It must be kept out of the trash. It's not garbage.
Both the garbage can and the recycling bin are open. Maria takes it to the bin. It's good!
Maria uses easy curbside pickup, but you can recycle for free at any public drop-off site.
Join the team.
And take it to the bin. Learn more at recycle.lincoln.ne.gov.
Hello, I'm Bill Ainsley, your host for this segment of Live and Learn. We all want to have good vision so that we can better enjoy the faces and colors of the wonderful world around us. Sight is important to taking in the full color of the wonderful world. The topic for this segment is vision, how to take care of your eyes, and what to look for, pun intended, that might indicate problems and a need to visit your eye doctor. With us today is Dr. Kyle Peter, an optometrist with a practice here in Lincoln. Dr. Peter, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, Bill. Glad to be here.
So, Dr. Peter, what is normal vision, and when should someone see their eye doctor?
Good question. So most people know that normal vision is 20/20, or what most people can see at an eye chart 20 feet away. However, a lot of people may go years not going to their eye doctor because they feel like they're seeing well and might just have slightly blurry vision, or maybe very blurry vision, and just have become accustomed to that. And so that's why it's important to get into an eye doctor to at least have a baseline, even if you feel like you're doing pretty well, to make sure you're not having any fatigue, or also to check the health of the eye to make sure there's no signs of underlying conditions that could lead to larger problems.
So, Dr. Peter, what are some of the alerts for people to watch out for?
There are a lot of things that we want to watch for with your vision. If your eyes are ever uncomfortable or having any strain, that's obviously a red flag to come in. Are they clear and comfortable all day is kind of what we want to know about. We want to watch for squinting in children. That could indicate that they might have a refractive error or need for glasses to learn at their optimal best. We also look for other signs in the eye, red eyes, maybe you have some floaters in your eyes. Those can indicate larger problems as well. But make sure your eyes are comfortable, you're seeing well. Come in anytime you have any issues with your eyes.
Well, I can tell you from personal experience that regular vision exams are very important. For full disclosure, I'll mention that you are one of my eye doctors. So what is the difference between an optometrist and an ophthalmologist?
Good question. I am an optometrist, and we are kind of looked at as the general physician for your eyes. And we complete a 4-year specialized training in eyes only after undergraduate degree, with the option of doing an additional year of 1 year of residency in an area we might want to specialize in. But we're trained to treat and manage all eye conditions, look for any systemic conditions such as high blood pressure, diabetes that could show up in your eye, and how to manage those, and obviously also how to maximize your vision through glasses or specialized contacts. Ophthalmologists are eye doctors who go through medical school after their undergraduate degree and then decide to specialize in ophthalmology, and they usually complete a 3 to 4 year training after medical school. They also perform comprehensive eye exams. Many of them do. A lot of them also specialize in certain areas such as refractive correction like LASIK or cataract surgery, or some specialize only in maybe retinal conditions to monitor those, or even neural conditions.
Who is the first person to see in your line of defense for your eyes?
I think it's most important to see someone who you're comfortable with, first and foremost. And I like to use kind of the dentistry analogy for this because if you're going to have your vision checked, your eye health monitored yearly, I think you should go see an optometrist to monitor that, and if similar to a dentist as monitoring your oral health. And if you need a referral for a surgery such as cataract surgery or maybe a more invasive treatment option for a certain condition, a referral can be made to an ophthalmologist. However, as I stated earlier, ophthalmologists also perform general eye exams, and some choose to do so, and that'd be a great option if that's someone you feel comfortable with.
So most people would do anything to protect their vision. So how often should they visit their eye doctor?
It usually comes down to age for this question, and we typically recommend starting with children to get a baseline evaluation if they're developing properly with their vision at ages 6 to 18 months of age. Then we recommend another checkup from 3 to 5 years old before school, and then usually yearly during school age to make sure that they're seeing how they should, because 80% of your learning and comes through your vision, what you're interpreting, and so it's very important to see during those ages well to learn optimally. After that, if after school you don't have maybe a visual correction we're treating you with for contacts or a condition, I would say every 2 years to make sure your eyes are staying healthy until you're about 65. And then after 65, we do recommend yearly, again, because there's higher risk for certain ocular conditions at that point.
There are numerous disorders of the eye. Would you explain some of them, such as glaucoma, diabetic retinopathy, retinal detachment, and others?
Sure, yeah, definitely. There's many to talk about, and some that are more commonly known than others. The first that we want to talk about is maybe glaucoma. That's sometimes thought as the silent thief of sight, because there's usually no pain associated with the damage, and it occurs over a long period of time. And so because of that, it's kind of a scary disease because it can go untreated until it's too late. And that's usually when you as maybe a patient would notice something in your vision. But we do screen for that yearly on eye exams to make sure we're not finding any early signs, such as increase in your eye pressure or maybe an area of your optic nerve that looks concerning. Next is maybe melanoma. 10% of the population actually has a birthmark or a nevus, a benign nevus in the back of their eye, which is fairly common, 10%, 1 out of 10, and obviously a much less than maybe a 1%. Those can develop into an actual melanoma that can spread, and so we always check for those at your yearly eye exam. Diabetic retinopathy is something that can affect the eyesight severely. Being treated for diabetes, you want to make sure that's well under control, and people with diabetes are recommended to have a yearly eye exam to monitor for any early signs, so we can work with them and their primary care doctor to have better control of the blood sugars, because as the blood sugars, if they're uncontrolled, fluctuate, they can cause damage to the blood vessels in your eyes, and not only your eyes, and the rest of your body. So it's also an important piece to the puzzle in your diabetes management. Another very common condition a lot of people have heard of, macular degeneration, is one that affects your central, wherever you're looking, your central vision. And the macula is a part of the retina where we can have deposits that can lead to distortions in your vision and also permanent damage. A retinal detachment is an ocular emergency, another condition that can happen. It can occur when you maybe have some predisposing factors in your retina that it gives you a higher risk for this, maybe some trauma, or even just a tear in the retina that can lead to the retina, which captures the light, to detach, and that can actually atrophy or die after just a few hours being detached. So again, an emergency. Floaters is another one that a lot of people have, and these are fairly common. There's a gel inside your eye that changes over time, and as it changes, it can have these little opacities in it, which are fairly common. But if you have a large increase in those, that could be an indication of something like a tear or a detachment. So any new ones should be evaluated. Cataracts is another common condition. The lens inside your eye grows our entire life and actually can become cloudy, and luckily there's a fairly low risk surgery nowadays that we can do to restore vision. And then lastly, conjunctivitis, red eyes. A lot of people lump that into kind of pink eye, I guess. However, I highly recommend any time you have a red irritated eye, you see an eye doctor, because there's multiple conditions that cannot be treated with a general antibiotic that, if they aren't treated correctly initially, they can really lead to larger problems.
Now I have to tell you that this is going to sound terrible, but it's very interesting to watch. Dr. Peter can take apart the eye and explain how the parts work. So Dr. Peter, would you please do that?
Sure. Yeah, I'll kind of show you how light goes through the eye and into the brain, and basically it goes through the front here, the cornea, which is kind of like the watch face of the eye. It actually has the highest power, similar to your glasses power, but then it goes through the iris here, which is the diaphragm. It controls the amount of light going into the eye. Then we have the lens, where a cataract can form, but that also helps refract the light into the back of the eye. Goes through this area here where the vitreous is, that hits the retina, and that captures the light, transmits the light into a impulse that goes into the optic nerve. It's basically, the optic nerve is a cable cord that brings all the information to the brain and gives you your sight.
Dr. Peter was on the program today as part of a project he's doing for the Nebraska Optometric Association. So Dr. Peter, would you tell us a little bit about that project?
Yeah, so I'm an optometrist in the Nebraska Optometric Association, or the NOA, and every year they select a group of newly licensed optometrists, less than 10 years, to participate in a leadership institute. And part of the institute's goal is to find, inspire, educate, and empower optometrists in the area to advocate for the profession. So, as we mentioned earlier, we kind of stumbled upon one of our exams that you do this, kind of part-time, and it was a great opportunity to maybe answer some questions for the community on their eyes and educate a little bit on ocular health.
So please remember to see your optometrist or your ophthalmologist for your regular eye exams if you think you might be having problems with your eyes. Dr. Peter, you want to expand a little bit on that, please?
Yes, it's very important. Eye health, of course, I think is extremely important, and I hope this helped answer some questions for a lot of people. But thanks, Bill, for having me. I really appreciate it.
I want to thank you for watching today, and we hope that you can take a look and see that it is never too late to live and learn.
Legal services are a part of the spectrum of senior services available through our 8 area agencies on aging. Attorneys can assist and educate seniors on consumer credit and debt collection issues, as well as help them plan ahead with advance directives. Attorneys can also help seniors with consumer fraud and financial exploitation concerns, and also guide them through government benefit issues. For more information, contact the Elder Access Line at 800-527-7249.
Welcome to Live and Learn. I'm Lita Powell Drake, and today we have a real ham with us. Today, I think you're going to enjoy Reynolds Davis, who was a ham radio operator. He was named the Ham of the Year in 2002. So why is a radio operator called a ham, Reynolds?
Well, that's an excellent question.
Well, I want an excellent answer.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows?
The folklore is that the first radio station run by non-licensed people was in Harvard University. And it was 3 people, a girl, we'll make her name Harriet because I don't know,
Okay.
and 2 guys, H, A, and M were their initials. So they built a radio station, so we're going to call it. And they said, well, let's call it Ham. And that was it. And that was in the early 1900s.
Oh my goodness, that's fascinating.
But other than that, nobody knows.
Ham radio operators. Okay. Your dad gave you a radio when you were just 13.
He did.
What kind of a radio was
He
it?
did. It's right there in front of you.
Okay.
With the coil. It's a crystal set. And many people have built crystal sets in Scouts and so forth. And it's a neat little radio. It receives whatever you want to receive. Has no batteries. You need to put up an antenna. And it's a great little radio. So it's one of the original things. So I'm sure a lot of people recognize that from their days when they were young.
This wouldn't work today, would it?
Absolutely.
Are you kidding?
No. It's great.
Whoa.
Plug in a pair of headphones, an antenna, and away you go.
Well, you were to become an admiral in the Nebraska Navy.
Right.
But the day you were to go over there to receive your award, what happened?
My ship sank.
Your ship sank.
No, I had an aortal aneurysm, AAA. And I was in Minnesota when that happened. I went up to support my daughter, who's a marathon runner. She's a minister also, because she gets a little extra help that way. Mm-hmm. And I went up to Minnesota and had a backache, and I thought that as I drove, it's about a 7-hour drive from my house.
That's a long trip, yeah.
I thought as I went that I'm probably having a kidney stone. I figured that's what a kidney stone would feel like. So I got up there and owie and so forth, ended up in a hospital with my aorta absolutely split open from there to there, and my body was filled with blood, and the organs were drowning. That's why they were hurting.
Oh.
So they had to pump me out. They did.
Well, but you're here.
I'm very lucky. I'm a very lucky person.
What caused that? Do you know? Do they know?
No. When they took me into surgery, my blood pressure was 0/0, which is a bad place to be. But there's only room for improvement.
Well, there are, and we're certainly glad you're here, Reynolds. Yeah. That's really great. Now, at age 15, you started volunteering with the Hams for emergency services.
Yes.
What drew you to that at such a young age?
Well, it gave the radio purpose. The groups I belonged to, ham radio groups, were always asking for volunteers. Mm-hmm. And we still do that. And the Lincoln Club, this is many years later now, the Lincoln Club is over 300 hams, and they do a huge amount of public service. They were out 2 weeks ago on the marathon. On each corner was a ham radio operator relaying to HQ, which includes the police, who's where and what they're doing. And I just enjoy doing that.
Well, you know, you've had a very interesting career.
I have.
You were up with a Fargo radio station.
KFGO.
Yes, and then with Swanson Sinke Ellis Advertising. I used to work with you then. Well, we created television and radio programs and so forth.
We were much younger then.
We were all much younger then. And then you went with SmithKline French, wasn't it? SmithKline French Pharmaceuticals.
It's been several things. With SmithKline French, when I joined them, it was Norden Laboratories.
Yeah, Norden Labs.
And then they were owned by SmithKline French, and then became SmithKline Beecham. Mm-hmm. And it became, I guess it's now GlaxoSmithKline. Mm.
And you went to Belgium to be there for some time. What did you do?
I did. I managed their operations in the Northern European countries.
Now, what is the operations? What does that mean?
The people. We had salesmen, we had scientists, licensing people in each country, and they needed leaders, and I was one of those.
Well, we're glad you're back home.
It was fun being there. I learned a couple of languages, and of course got to...
Okay, so speak something.
I'm speaking, this is English.
This is English.
English, yeah. For those who are confused. And got to go places, you know, the castles on the Rhine, for example.
Oh, yes, aren't they beautiful?
40-minute drive from my house. Paris was an hour's drive from my house. So we got to see and do lots of great
So
things.
certainly a world traveler.
I am.
Well, I'm glad you're back in Lincoln. Now, he was involved when the tornado hit in Hallam. That was 2002, I believe.
Yep.
Okay, what did the Hams do? What was their role in the Hallam tornado?
We had multiple roles. One role was to, as spotters, to watch for the tornado
And
to
see
spot
that huge cloud grow and grow. That
And
was
see it.
terrifying.
and relay into emergency management what we were seeing so they could blow the sirens and activate the other emergency services. So that was day one. And then we also did a 100-mile survey, 100-square-mile survey of the county for all of the damage that was done. So emergency management, Doug Alberg at the time, could schedule how it was going to be cleaned up. That these phone poles be picked up on day one and da-da-da. So, and I was there then for 28 days in Hallam, acting as a communicator between the emergency management people and the folks in Hallam.
Well, you never realize the power of something like that until you see what happened to Hallam. I mean, I was down there too. Salvation Army was offering food for people, and I couldn't believe that the tornado would miss something and hit something else. Excuse me,
yes.
like I just hit the table. But I remember I looked at, there was a church in Hallam, and the sign outside read, "The services on Sunday," and the front of the church was there. The whole back of the church was gone.
Right.
And across the street, not one house had been touched. And I just sat there trying to figure out not only the power of the tornado, but the thing it selects.
The randomness.
Oh.
And I was stationed right across the street from that during the recovery phase and just watched them put the town back together. It's a beautiful now, beautiful little
What,
town.
28 days you spent down there?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, now explain a field day.
Field day. Mm-hmm. It relates to Hallam, as a matter of fact. Field day, why don't you put up one of the pictures of a tower, and I'll try and explain. There you go, thank you. Field day is an opportunity for ham radio clubs to go out and set up radio stations. And this is Dan Moravic, who's an oncologist here. And we set up radio stations and try to talk to as many other stations around the country as you can to show the viability of the station. So this is the kind of thing you would see after a disaster.
How high is that? How tall is that?
That one's a 50-footer, I think. So we use our stations and talk to other stations, give them heads up of what's coming or what's happened. And oftentimes this is the first communications to an area after a disaster. The Anchorage, Alaska earthquake we wouldn't have known about were it not for ham radio. And
what's he doing?
He's just talking to other people. That's Mike Rurdance, works at the university. And these are all in the mid-70s that we did this.
So he's talking to all the other hams and communicating what kind of information?
Yeah, talking to other stations. And in fact, where we are there is now the Norden Laboratories land. It used to be a farm. So once we talk to other stations, we swap cards, postcards, so that we know that we talk to them and they know we talk to us.
So you would send these where?
Anywhere in the world. These are ones primarily from stations that are outside of the U.S., but these are stations that we've talked to and they talk to us, and they ask for a QSL card.
A QSL?
QSL, which is a written confirmation
of
it. It's Swaziland, there's Austria, there's Australia. So there's lots of cards here, and it's kind of fun. So ham radio, in addition to talking around the world, you also give an opportunity to collect stamps. It's a great stamp collector hobby.
But when you see the license plates of the ham radio operators, they're always interesting to see. And it's peculiar what it looks like. So would you please explain these particular call letters here?
I will. Every radio and TV station, airplane, whatever, in the United States has a call sign. They have a transmitter, they have a call sign. And the call signs all begin with K, W, A, or N.
Now, wasn't K, let's see, K west of the Mississippi.
Used to be, but no longer true.
All the TV and radio stations start with K west of the Mississippi.
Oh, I bet they don't.
Oh, except Omaha. No, all right, go ahead.
So anyway, so a foreign station, let me find one here. Here's Swaziland in Africa. Let me stand that card up. If they heard K0GND, they would know the K means United States of America. The 0 means Central United States. They can aim their antennas at it. And then the GND is the rest of my call sign. And that's given by the FCC. And that's my original call sign.
Well, in addition to all of the things that they have done at Hallman all around, they've been participating with the Lincoln Marathon since it began, and I didn't know that.
Yes.
What's the responsibility for you with the marathon?
This year was to sit and watch, unfortunately. The marathon, again, has communications for emergencies. Somebody gets hurt, somebody falls down, needs medical assistance. The Ham Radio Network would phone that in. I was the finish line announcer, so I would read the names and hometowns of the people as they finished.
And women are a part of it too.
Very much so.
Are there many women ham radio operators?
Absolutely, probably over half.
That's
Yeah.
marvelous.
Yep.
That really is. Well, our guest today has been Reynolds Davis, an old friend, and we hope that you're going to be recovering 100% from
Careful about the use of the word
trauma
old.
that you have been through recently. We wish you a speedy recovery.
Well, thank you, Lena.
Reynolds. Thank you so much. And remember, it's never too late to live and learn more about the ham radio operators.
Legal services are a part of the spectrum of senior services available through our 8 area agencies on aging. Attorneys can assist and educate seniors on consumer credit and debt collection issues, as well as help them plan ahead with advance directives. Attorneys can also help seniors with consumer fraud and financial exploitation concerns, and also guide them through government benefit issues. For more information, contact the Elder Access Line at 800-527-7249.
Hi, I'm Doug Jose. Welcome to Live and Learn. Let's face it, you're not going to live forever, so you need to get your estate in place and managed as you wish. My guest today is Andrew Loudon from Baylor Evnen. And Andrew, there's an issue here that some people still don't do any planning.
That's true, Doug. You know, only 41% of Americans die with a will or a trust, which is hard to believe, but we see it all the time. And it's an easy thing to put off. We usually see people at certain points in time in their life when they're nearing retirement, after a spouse has passed away, when they've received a large inheritance. But for most people, it's something they say they'll get to eventually. But most people die without a will.
Is this because they're not sure how they want to arrange it, or because they think it's costly?
I think the number one reason that people do not see an attorney is they're worried about the cost. And that's unfortunate because we're really not that expensive. And where lawyers make the most money is when there is not a will or trust has not been updated. In fact, I was at a seminar recently and the speaker joked that we should stop doing estate planning because we do make more money if people don't have their planning in place and then pass away. So a well-drafted estate plan will save your family a lot of money after you die.
Related to that is maybe waiting too long to do this?
We see a lot of people about once a month. Folks call Baylor Evnen because they have received a bad diagnosis. And so you can bet that we rush to their bedside. Unfortunately, the people at Madonna and Tabitha and St. E's and Brian know me because they know it's probably not good news when I'm arriving. But that's the last time to do estate planning. A better time to do estate planning is when you are not worried about your health and you're not susceptible to undue influence. You know, almost every time when I enter that hospital or rehab room, the whole family's there, or one or two of the children. And there might be confidential issues that you don't want to talk to everybody about. And so it's much better to do it before the end of life. Of course, we don't know the hour and the day.
That's right.
And so many people pass away unexpectedly, but we do work with a lot of people at the end of life, and that's the wrong time to do estate planning.
Once you get that plan in place, then how often do you recommend that people review it and maybe do some updating? I suppose that depends a little bit on the family situation.
Absolutely, and we suggest that every 3 to 6 years that folks check back in with their attorney or financial advisor or accountant and see, due to changes in their life, whether an update is necessary. But the truth is that most people only look at those that do estate planning only do it once or twice in their lifetime. So when I'm meeting with a client, I have to assume that they'll never come back to see me. So we have to talk about what if. What if a child dies before you? Then where do you want their share to go to? And things like that, to build in the contingencies and succession plans to make sure that the will and trust work as our client intends it to.
Well, probably most of the focus is on the financial stuff, but there's lots of other personal possessions that sometimes come to play, like the old story about Aunt Mary's yellow plate, and who gets that?
You know, it's not the financial value of personal property that drives the biggest fights. It's the sentimental value of mom's wedding ring or dad's favorite shotgun, to use the two pieces of personal property, that drive the biggest fights. And it's because mom's wedding ring and dad's shotgun don't divide by 2 or 3 kids without selling the item. What we strongly recommend is that folks do as we do in our office and have a laundry list, which is a separate piece of paper that Nebraska law recognizes. If it's referenced in the will or the trust, it's incorporated into the will or the trust, does not need to be notarized or witnessed, does need to be in your handwriting, the signature and the date primarily, and that's where you can detail who receives things like china, collections, the dining room table, the grandfather clock. Laundry lists are a great way to avoid those squabbles between children.
So you can do this sort of at your own pace and your peace of mind in home. You're not faced with sitting in front of an Andrew Loudon lawyer when you're drawing up this list.
That's right, and it's flexible, meaning you can change it as many times as you want after you do your will or trust. Just make sure that the last one that you do is with your original documents. I've had several estates that we've handled where we found that list after all the property had been sold. Say the originals were in the safe deposit box, but that laundry list was in your drawer in your office at home. That's unfortunate, so we want to make sure that the last one of those laundry lists that you do is with your original documents. But Doug, my best advice by far when it comes to personal property is give it away now. Give away the antiques that you have. Give away your jewelry that you don't need every day. And that's because you get to see your loved ones enjoy the gift, and it's a non-issue in your estate.
Related to that is when you get to the point of doing all this, then you get to the point of probate in your situation.
Right.
Tell us what's involved with probate, and is that one thing that people shy away from?
Yes, I'd say the number one question I get from a new client is, how do I avoid probate? And probate is, well, what is probate? Probate is that old-fashioned process where a will is admitted to court. The judge appoints the executor, what we now call a personal representative, and that person is charged to go out and collect your assets and distribute them pursuant to your will. Now, there are 3 things that people don't like about probate, and I always joke with folks, you won't be worried about probate at the time because you've passed away, but your children or your beneficiaries might not like probate. And the 3 things I hear about, because I am a probate lawyer, that folks don't like are significant attorney's fees. When an estate goes through the court system, the attorney's fees will be higher than if it avoids the court system. Time delay. Probate takes at a minimum in Nebraska 5 months, but usually more like 6 to 12 months. And then also, probate is a matter of public record. So for our clients who are more private individuals that would rather the world not know what they owned during their lifetime after they pass away, they wish to avoid probate. The best way to avoid probate is by using a revocable living trust. This is a document that you create during your lifetime, similar to an LLC or a corporation, and you create it, it's a contract, and you put your assets into the trust. Then, when you die, it's not necessary to go to court to ask a judge's permission to transfer a house or a farm or an investment account, but it will automatically, much like a life insurance policy with a beneficiary or an IRA, automatically those assets transfer to your loved ones, and it moves quickly with very little attorney time, I'm sorry to say, and it's very private.
So that your assets have to be named in the trust, or the, for example, if you have let's say an investment account, I
Yes.
mean, it has to be a trust account. Is that correct?
What lawyers call this is funding a trust, and there's lots of different ways to fund a trust. Real estate, usually we put into the trust, meaning the trust owns your home. For farm ground, we use a transfer on death deed that transfers the property to the trust at death so that we don't have to re-register with the Farm Service Agency. For most investment accounts, yes, we would place them in a trust, but we could also make the trust the beneficiary. Most investment accounts have a transfer on death, TOD, or pay on death, POD, and we can also avoid probate by making the trust the beneficiary in that manner. There's lots of ways to skin the cat here, but it's important that you're checking with your attorney, financial advisor, and accountant to make sure that you are avoiding probate. It's not enough just to sign a trust. We actually have to fund the trust, as you said, Doug, and make sure the trust owns your property before you pass away.
What other documents do you consider essential to have in place for your successors, and how should they be able to find them? I guess is maybe sometimes a key.
Absolutely. In addition to a will or a trust, it's very important for you to have powers of attorney, both for financial affairs and healthcare affairs. So these are during lifetime documents that might deal with mental incapacity. So in many ways, these are more important than a will or a trust. It's a sad reality that the evil diseases of Alzheimer's and dementia impact 40 to 45% of those who reach the age of 85. It's something I deal with on a weekly basis. And so it's very important to have a power of attorney in place that says who is in charge of your finances after you pass away. I always say, who do you trust implicitly not to steal your money, to be very blunt. And then a healthcare power of attorney, which is a document that says who makes healthcare decisions, consulting with your doctor and physicians and nurses, and then including end of life, including maybe a hospice decision, when life support would be terminated.
Which leads right into the next question of who your people, who you name as people to watch over your estate after you pass away.
I call this the most important decision that you have to make, is who is your executor, who is your trustee, who is your power of attorney. And oftentimes my best advice is to name a third party. You know, here in Lincoln, we're very fortunate to have excellent trust companies. Union Bank, First Nebraska, Pinnacle, NBC, First National of Omaha. These are all professionals who will help with an estate after someone passes away. They don't charge while you're alive, but after you pass away, they will help settle an estate for a set fee that's very reasonable and removes all the family dynamics from the estate settlement so that children don't even have the opportunity to fight with one another. And especially if children don't get along. Now, everyone tells me their kids get along, and I don't believe them. Because I've seen too many problems where childhood jealousies rear their ugly heads after mom and dad have passed away. So I'm getting a little cynical, which is hard for me because I'm an optimistic type of guy. But I get a little cynical when parents tell me, oh, there won't be any fights. And so I really recommend considering a third party.
And the last thing that we need to touch on is the beneficiaries.
Yes.
Now you state what you want to happen with your estate and your will and your trust document, but there's lots of things where beneficiaries are named, and sometimes those are forgotten.
That's right. Life insurance, retirement accounts, 401ks, 403bs. Many of these assets have a beneficiary designation, and it's very important for your listeners to know that the beneficiary designation is more powerful than the will or the trust. In other words, it does not matter what your will or trust says if the beneficiary says something different. So if you have 2 children and your will says leave everything equally, but only one of them is on your bank account, because you want them to have access to pay for your funeral. I hear that all the time. You must know that legally, after you die, that one child that's on your bank account will have all the money and will be under no legal obligation to share the money, even though your will says 50-50.
Andrew, this sounds a little complicated, but it seems to me it boils down to number one, making an inventory of what you have, where you want it to go, and how you want it to get there, sort of thing.
I absolutely agree.
Thank you, Andrew. It's good to have all this laid out in front of us, and maybe our viewers can look at their situation and decide how they want to do things and if they have everything in place that we've talked about. And remember, it's never too late to live and learn.